What is up, guys? Londrick here, and now I'm back, and the Fave is coming back for a second episode. So obviously I did the first one last week, and here's a follow-up. So I had a few suggestions, but the one I liked the most is Fave 5 matches to end in a draw. That's probably the best suggestion I had. So this is the one I'm gonna do. So yeah, pretty much. One thing I'm going to point out, that in this one there's actually going to be no WWE matches, and the reason for that is how many big WWE matches have actually ended in a draw. I mean, if you think about it, a 60-minute title limit draw isn't really a WWE thing, is it really? And most of the matches that end in draws have been double count out, double disqualifications, double knockout and last man standard matches and things like that. So there's no WWE matches, which is quite interesting. And also, for the purpose of this, the end result has to be a draw. So, for example, the Bret and Shawn Iron Man match, yes, the initial 60 minutes did go to a draw, but the match got restarted and Shawn Michaels ended up winning, so that doesn't count. So it has to be an out-and-out draw. That has to be the end result. So, with the introduction out of the way, let's get on to the countdown. So to kick off the countdown at number 5, we go to the world of Ring of Honor, and we go to 2004, and we go to Samoa Joe versus CM Punk for the Ring of Honor title, World Title Classic. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, we're going to see Samoa Joe and CM Punk again, but before the second one, there was a first 1 hour draw, and that took place on June 2004. Ring of Honor had been around a little over 2 years at that point. Obviously, it was growing. I had this bit of buzz going on about it and all that. Samoa Joe was the undisputed man in Ring of Honor, being the Ring of Honor champion since March of 2003, and building this epic title reign of great title defences, great credible title defences, to the point where the Ring of Honor title actually got upgraded and was. Because originally it was just the Ring of Honor Championship. Then June 2004, it was finally referred to as the Ring of Honor World Championship. So in Ring of Honor storyline, Samoa Joe got the title upgraded to a world title. And then June 2004, we saw Samoa Joe go one-on-one with CM Punk. Obviously, CM Punk, one of the top guys in the company, had the awesome feud of Raven in 03. Formed the Second City Saints with Cole Cabana and I think Ace Steel, and obviously so they've been going for a while, and I believe this is Punk's first ever title shot. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. So I don't think there's really a big storyline behind this match. Samoa Joe's just a champion and Punk was just put together with Joe. I think that's how it went down. And this was an interesting time in the company. The whole Rob Feinstein scandal had happened not long before this, which led to TNA pulling all their talent for Ring of Honor. One of which was actually CM Punk, but unlike Christopher Daniels, unlike AJ Styles, who made the choice to stick with TNA rather than Ring of Honor, Punk actually decided to stay with Ring of Honor and turn TNA down. So Punk was staying in Ring of Honor, and then we got this title match, and this match was absolutely fantastic. Told an awesome story with Punk's strategy. He was going to try and take Samoa Joe along, because Samoa Joe, obviously the bigger guy, does he have the same stamina to go a long time? Most of Joe's title defenses were in the 15-20 minute range. So CM Punk's strategy was to play the long game, to take it slow, to take Samoa Joe along. So obviously first half an hour or so was really just a lot of building towards a hot second half. Then we had stuff like that. But then to CM Punk's discovery, Samoa Joe had the stamina to go along, so it didn't work. Then we got past the 30-minute mark and fans were just going crazy for this match. This match was awesome. And then eventually we went to a 1 hour draw, which I believe was the first 1 hour draw in Ring of Honor history for the world title. I mean, they did have an Iron Man match back in 2002 for crowning a champion, I think the show was called. But this was definitely the first 1 hour draw in Ring of Honor history, which so the longest singles match at that point, which Bryan Danielson and Austin Aries beat not too long after this, with a 75-minute match of Testing the Limit. Yeah, so obviously everyone talks about Joe versus Punk 2, and believe me, we'll get to that, we really will. But this match happened first, so this was a major building block. So would the Joe Punk 2 match have been a success without this one? I mean, if you've seen the second one, you definitely have to see the first one. Then obviously when you watch those two, you have to watch the final one at All-Star Extravaganza. Joe Punk, that's probably still my favourite trilogy of matches in Ring of Honor history. And this was the start of it, and this is a match that everyone must see, basically. Coming at number 4, we go for Ring of Honor back into the 90s with ECW, and that's August 1995. Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko, 2 out of 3 falls. What more can be said about this match that hasn't already been said? I mean, we've got on 23 years now since this match took place, and wow, it's really been 1995, 23 years ago, so that's pretty awesome. Yeah, this is one of the this probably is maybe the best match in ECW history, if not the best, definitely top 3 for sure. So really good. So we're going to set the scene here. Really, the early stages of ECW, it was all about hardcore wrestling, blood, barbed wire baseball bats, tables, chairs, all these crazy brawls that we used to get from people like the Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, Public Enemy, Bad Breed, the Gangsters, etc. That's kind of how the early days of ECW was, and then in 1995, Paul Heyman, to his credit, decided to expand the product to make it a bit more versatile. Then he brought in Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, 2 Cold Scorpio, and Eddie and Malenko, they just had wrestling matches. Really just technical clinic wrestling matches. And guess what? The ECW fans loved it. I mean, that's one of my big things with everyone, by people who don't really know. Accuse, ECW, it was all just about garbage, brawling, all that. No, that's not true at all. I mean, he brought in Eddie and Malenko, who were wrestlers, and then later on brought in Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, and Hugo Guerrero, and he brought Lucha Libre to ECW as well. So ECW had a lot more than people like to give them credit for. Now this is an interesting time in the business because things weren't as accessible as they are now. I mean, if Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko came along now, we'd all know about them, because obviously we've got the internet and all that, and since the internet's come along, the world's become a much smaller place. But in 1995, if you weren't an absolute die-hard wrestling fan, you probably had no idea who Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko were, because this was 1995, the size barrier was still an issue in the US, so mainstream-wise, Malenko and Guerrero never really had a shake. Malenko especially, which I found amazing when I found out years later that Dean Malenko had actually been wrestling since the early 80s, but he'd never really done much because of his size and all that, and his look. And Eddie Guerrero, same thing, started wrestling in the late 80s from the Guerrero family. Never really had a shot in the United States. Obviously, bulk of the careers were in Japan, Mexico, that sort of thing. Like I said, that stuff wasn't really accessible in 1995. I mean, only really where you probably knew about Guerrero and Malenko, if you're a subscriber to things like the Wrestling Observer, or if you're a die-hard hardcore tape trader. I mean, obviously nowadays, you can pretty much access anything. I mean, if you want to watch the British wrestling indie scene, go ahead, you can do that. You want to watch Evolve's last pay-per-view, go ahead, easy, you can just find it. Watch New Japan on a regular basis, newjapanworld.com, you know, and obviously like the WWF and WCW, but especially WWF, we're just never going to touch a guy like Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero, I mean, they're both about 5'6" each, about barely 200 pounds probably, maybe not even that. I mean, especially Malenko. I mean, Malenko's just a bland looking guy. Guerrero, at least Guerrero had some charisma and definitely had a jack look to him. But so Paul Heyman brought them into ECW and immediately had them feud over the World Television title. And like I said, they were just so different from everything else you saw in ECW at the time. And they had a number of awesome matches. I mean, I remember a 30-minute match at Hostile City Showdown that I've seen. Pretty sure that one went to a draw as well, actually, if I remember right. Obviously, they traded the TV title back and forth. But obviously, the primary employees were New Japan. And then New Japan had a relationship with WCW at the time. And then this was around the time Bischoff was about to start Nitro. So Bischoff was on a mission to get as much talent in as possible, as much different talent in as possible, to give his Nitro a different feel and look to Raw. And one of his big acquisitions in August of 1995 was to sign away Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero. Obviously taken away from ECW, though. Guerrero and Malenko were finishing up on ECW at the end of August, so what better way to have them bow out to face each other in a 2 out of 3 falls match. And I'm pretty sure it was in the ECW arena as well in Philadelphia. And yeah, this match is a must-see match if you haven't seen it. One of the all-time great ECW matches, and just a phenomenal wrestling match as well. So Guerrero and Malenko had taken a fall each. But unlike every other match in this list, it did not go to a time limit draw. It actually ended in a double pin. So I guess the thinking was Heyman didn't want either to lose on the way out, so he thought, let's just go for a draw. That was probably the best way to go. And yeah, like I say, I love this match. It's pretty amazing. Coming up 23 years later. If you haven't seen this match, you definitely check it out. Locking in at number 3, we're going to go old school now. So far we've had a match in the 2000s, we've had a match in the 1990s, but for this one we're going back to the 1980s, and probably the most well-known match on this list, probably the most famous match on this list, and we're going back to 1988, Clash of the Champions 1, for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Ric Flair defending against Sting. Now, great story behind this match. So this was so years before the Monday Night Wars, there was a big war between Vince McMahon and Jim Crockett. I'm not going to go into big details because obviously that would take a long time. But obviously stems from Vince's decision to run Starrcade alongside, Vince's decision to run Survivor Series to counteract Starrcade in November. And then Vince's decision to once again fuck the NWA over by putting a free live special called the Royal Rumble against NWA's Bunkhouse Stampede. However, this time Jim Crockett was going to retaliate by putting a little thing called Clash of the Champions live on TBS against WrestleMania 4, and it was going to be headlined by a match for the NWA Heavyweight Title Championship between Ric Flair and Sting. Now, this was, if there was ever a match that made a star, has to be this one. I mean, by this point, 88, Ric Flair had been the NWA champion on and off since 1981. He was synonymous with the belt. He was the biggest star outside of the WWF. I mean, you could pretty much say, besides Hogan and probably Savage, Ric Flair was the biggest star in wrestling at the time. I mean, he'd had countless classic matches, done so much in his career, and his career was nearing a peak. I mean, Flair just turned 39 at this point. Obviously, Flair dominated the 80s, but it was time for the NWA to look into the 1990s, into the future. And here comes along Sting. A big acquisition when NWA Crockett bought the UWF. Obviously, with that came a few guys. But obviously, the standout guy in that group has to be Sting. Sting came in the previous year. Had a little bit of a buzz, but not a massive buzz. And then ended up with this title shot on national television against Ric Flair. I mean, coming into this match, Sting was a star, but he wasn't a superstar yet. I mean, people weren't clamouring, but by the end of this match, that all changed now. Yeah, this was obviously the main event of an awesome show, went up against WrestleMania 4. You had a Midnight Express taking on the Fantastics in the awesome opener. Barry Windham and Lex Luger beating Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard for the NWA Tag Team titles. That was two fantastic matches. Could this one live up to it? And the question, what they're going to do, they're going to book a 45-minute time limit draw on national television. And the answer is an absolute yes. I mean, say what you will about Sting, and obviously Sting was still somewhat pretty green at this time, so obviously Ric Flair obviously carried this match. I mean, that's no disrespect to Sting, it's just how it was. Sting wasn't a world-class performer at the time. Ric Flair certainly was, and Ric Flair had a certain formula he stuck to, yes. I mean, that's a fair criticism when people say that about Ric Flair. Of course he stuck to his own of course he stuck to it, but it worked for him. I mean, he could have that match with pretty much everyone. And here we are, Dragon Sting, this amazing match. I mean, with so many twists and turns, so many momentum changes. I mean, for a while there, I think the start of the match, Flair was selling for Sting a lot, and then they sold the fact that Ric Flair, the veteran, after the match went a certain time, Ric Flair took control, and then obviously we got the last 5 minutes or so was super hot with Sting trying everything he can do to try and defeat Flair for the world title. And then obviously the finish, I mean, we've seen this finish a ton of times in time limit matches or Iron Man matches like this. We get down to the last 30 seconds or so, the babyface either hits his impact finisher and then goes for the 1-2, and then obviously the time limit runs out, or puts him in a submission move where the heel hangs on right at the end. And that's exactly what happened here with Sting having Ric Flair in the Scorpion Deathlock, Ric Flair refusing to tap out, then the time limit running out, and then we get the time limit draw. And then after this match, Sting was a made man, and obviously everything became about him. Sting was seen as the future of the NWA at that point, but of course didn't win the world title for another 2 years, because obviously stuff like Steamboat coming back and all that, Flair feuding with Terry Funk. So they held off Sting beating Flair for the title until 2 years later, the Great American Bash. But for me, this was the match that made Sting's career. Without this match, that 25-year plus career, being the franchise of WCW and all that, wouldn't have happened if this match hadn't have took place. I honestly don't think that. So if you haven't seen this match, you definitely should check it out on the network or wherever you can find it. So yeah. Coming in at number 2. Now remember the first earlier on when I said about coming back to Joe versus Punk? Well, here we are, clocking in at number 2. Samoa Joe versus CM Punk 2 from the show titled Joe versus Punk 2 in Chicago, October 2004. And now, this match, holy fuck. If you haven't seen this match before, you definitely need to check it out. Especially if you're a big CM Punk fan, especially if you're a big Samoa Joe fan. So obviously 2004, after the World Title Classic, I think the seed was already there. They were probably going to do a rematch because obviously Joe hadn't beat Punk, so obviously Punk had a claim to having another title shot. Because yes, he didn't beat Joe for the title, but he wasn't defeated by Samoa Joe either. But didn't happen right away, of course. CM Punk did his own thing. Samoa Joe's title reign went from strength to strength, particularly in a violent feud with Homicide over the summer of 2004. But you always got the sense eventually it was going to go back to Joe versus Punk. That was going to happen. And ironically, it happened when it wasn't supposed to happen. Let me explain. So this show was originally booked to be Samoa Joe versus Steve Corino. But at the time, Steve Corino also worked for 0-1 in Japan. I think he was actually quite a high-profile guy there as well. And as luck would have it, Corino managed to double book himself. For the night he was supposed to be at Ring of Honor, he was also booked to 0-1. So obviously, Corino took the 0-1 booking and worked that show, which left Ring of Honor in a bit of a pickle. Who was going to challenge Samoa Joe for the world title? And it was like, well, we're in Chicago. CM Punk's pretty loved in Chicago. So yeah, let's do some Mojo versus CM Punk 2 right here in Chicago. I mean, amazing how CM Punk's are two best matches of his career. This one and Money in the Bank 2011, all both took place in Chicago. I mean, CM Punk in Chicago is as over as anyone in the home territory I've ever seen. Like Jerry Lawler in Memphis, Austin in Texas, you name it. CM Punk in Chicago's popularity is right up there with them. Yeah, so immediately you know you're going to have a big fight atmosphere. Obviously the buzz from the first match, and then the buzz of CM Punk Chicago. Samoa Joe's title reign had been going on for at least about 18 months to 20 months at this point. So I think Samoa Joe's had the belt a while. Could CM Punk be the one to take the belt in Chicago? I think that was the feeling. Was it going to happen this way? And I think obviously the feeling as well was, are they going to do or they could do another 1 hour draw? And obviously that's exactly what they did. But I think this is one of the ones, you take everything about the first match and they just kind of expanded on that with strategies and stuff like that, and storytelling and all that. And I think the pace is a bit better as well. I mean, obviously it's hard to do a 1 hour match at the modern era's pace, because obviously back in the 60s and 70s, a lot of it was working holds and building crowd heat and all that. But obviously fans nowadays expect more than that from the wrestlers. So they had a nice story, really nice story going along, and some absolutely phenomenal spots. I mean, they really were. Obviously, CM Punk had slightly changed his game plan this time because he knew Samoa Joe could go along, so he couldn't just try and wear him out this time. And for a big guy like Samoa Joe, it's pretty awesome that he could have these 1 hour matches and not be blown up or anything like that either. I mean, this match for me is just, for me, it's the absolute best Ring of Honor match I've ever seen. And it's kind of, because I didn't see this right a couple of years later, maybe, because obviously, like I say, 2004, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have all these streaming sites and all that, and all these sites where you could download shit from. I mean, we did have torrent sites back then, but again, not everyone had a fast broadband internet back then either. A lot of people were still using dial-up. I mean, so I probably didn't see this match till about 06 or 07 maybe. I believe I downloaded it from a torrent site. But yeah, just when I saw this match, because obviously I heard about it, because obviously reading the internet at the time, reading things like Power Slam and all that, there was so much buzz about this match, and for good reason. This match is something really special, it really is. I mean, two guys, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, just going out there on a kick-ass wrestling match for 1 hour. I mean, I can't really say enough about it. This match was just something truly, truly special. And obviously this led to the third match at All-Star Extravaganza with Samoa Joe won. But yeah, obviously if you haven't seen this match, you really need to check it out right now. I mean, obviously just pause this video, find the match, watch it, then come back and thank me, because this match is something truly, truly special. 5-star match, and one of the best matches I've seen in the last 15 years. And after all that, we need a number one, and this works for me. Number one, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. Dominion 6.11 2017 for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. What more needs to be said about this match? I mean, obviously Okada or Omega, you know the score there. This match is just amazing. It really, really is. Ironically enough, the Dominion match this year possibly even topped this match. I haven't watched the Dominion this year's match twice yet. I watched it live, but I haven't seen it since then. So eventually I'm going to watch Omega Okada 4 again. Then I'll see which match I like better. But instincts say I like this year's better. But for me, this match is a special place in my heart anyway, because this is the match that really turned it around for me. Turned me into a full-time New Japan fan. Like, I think I've explained it before how I kind of watched New Japan a little bit, but not really. Obviously, this coincided with the WWE just going so shit. Obviously, this match happened, and fell in love with this match, and then obviously after that I decided, right, I'm going to follow this product full time now, and I haven't regretted it because it's been awesome actually being a New Japan supporter for the last year. So I've been a New Japan fan for about a year now, and it's just awesome. I mean, it's actually nice that we have great wrestling out there, and we're not stuck with the WWE. So obviously, the whole story of this goes back to Wrestle Kingdom 11. Kenny Omega, the G1 Climax 26 winner, challenges Okada for the title of their Tokyo Dome, and they have a 47-minute epic. I mean, really one of the all-time greatest matches ever. But Okada wins, but Kenny Omega gave him the fight of his life for sure. And no, I'm not going to talk about Meltzer star ratings because who gives a fuck about this 6-star, 7-star bollocks. I'm just going to ignore that. But obviously everyone was talking about this match, and I did love this match, but I wasn't like, it wasn't one of the absolute elite matches that I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, I could probably name 10 to 20 matches better than the Okada Omega Tokyo Dome match I liked better. Hell, I'd probably like the Okada Tanahashi one at Wrestle Kingdom 10 better than this. But anyway, Omega was so close, then Okada's title reign continued through the rest of the year against people like Suzuki and Shibata. And then it was announced that in Osaka-jo Hall we would get to see Omega versus Okada 2. Could Omega overtake Okada and win the title this time? The answer was no, but they went to a 1-hour draw, and it was one of the most epic matches I've ever seen. It really, really was. I mean, everything that was great about the first one was just expanded on and improved upon. The storytelling was just unbelievable in this one. I mean, some of the way they would set up the spots and all that. The bit where it looked like Omega was so fucked that Cody was teasing throwing the towel. That epic spot where Okada went for the Rainmaker, but he couldn't hit it because Kenny Omega just collapsed from exhaustion, which obviously they kind of did something like that for this year when it was actually Okada who collapsed this time. But I'm sure at some point we'll talk about Omega Okada 4 on this channel in long form. But yeah, this match just unbelievable, and just so glad that I got to see it. And when I saw this match, I thought, yeah, that's a match. This is one of the absolute all-time greatest matches I've ever seen. And for me, because I was on the fence about Kenny Omega. I knew he was good and all that. I knew he was great, but I wasn't sure if he was legitimately one of the world's best wrestlers. Then I saw this match with Okada, and I thought, alright, yeah, Omega's the guy. Obviously, Okada, of course, an amazing champion. Obviously, that title run was pretty much epic. And the whole Omega series is probably one of the more defining parts about the title reign. And yeah, even New Japan, it's very rare to have a 1-hour title draw. I can't think of many more than this, really. I mean, in the last modern few years, I can't even think of another New Japan title match that went to a 1-hour draw. I mean, obviously, we've had G1 Climax matches go to a 30-minute draw, which is pretty standard and fine and all that. But as far as a world title match going 1-hour draw, and then obviously, yeah, you've probably all seen this match. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people watching this video seen this match before. Don't really need me to ramble on too much, but obviously, yeah, this match for me is one of my absolute all-time favourite matches. And ironically, they had possibly an even better match this year, which we'll talk about that another time. So that's a wrap, guys. Lundrick's Fave 5 matches that ended in a draw. I'll be back next week, but I haven't decided on a topic yet. So, like I say, any more suggestions, put them in the comments section, and then I'll decide upon it. And then obviously, August, when August comes round, I'll probably switch to a SummerSlam related videos. So, pick 3 I'm definitely going to do as at least 2 to top Fave 5 SummerSlam shows and Fave 5 SummerSlam matches. Might even do Fave 5 SummerSlam moments as well. We'll see about that. Or maybe, yeah, we'll see anyway. So, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, peace.